Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are discussing a battleship, a premium battleship that is pretty pointless and, unfortunately, especially considering what ship it is, fairly miserable, frustrating, and just downright awful to play. And that is, as you can see on screen, the Tier 7 premium American battleship California. Now, California isn't too old of a ship. She was introduced, I do believe, right before the Commander rework way back in, I think, 9.6 or 9.5. So she's, again, a fairly new ship in the game. I believe sometime, what was it? Yeah, she came out for 4th of July, I believe, in 2021 or 2020, however long ago that was. Time's a blur, especially during this time of the year, if you're a school teacher like I am. But anyway, so California is a Tennessee-class battleship. She was one of the ships present at Pearl Harbor, and one that was raised and then refitted and sent back into action. Now, this is a very, 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 very historical ship. However, in game, she's unfortunately not that great. I'm not trying to, say that since the ship is bad in game, that detracts anything that she did in real life. Of course not. But she is really only, I would say, desirable to have really for her historical value. Besides that, I wouldn't really recommend you get this ship. Now, when she came out, I believe she was a pretty slow-paced ship to play, can be frustrating at times, but overall she was pretty decent. However, now, especially with the way the game's evolved and some changes to Matchmaker, I would not recommend getting this ship at all, unless, again, you want it for the historical value, and if you're one of those people, you probably already have the California. So, let's go through the ship and explain why you probably don't want this particular boat, but there is another one you should probably pick up if you do like this playstyle, though. So, the California, like I said, she is a Tennessee-class battleship, was present for Pearl Harbor, was sunk, refloated, and then refitted into this very cool-looking configuration that you have right here. Now, in one of my future premium ship videos, where I go through 5 ships that I think should be added in as future premium ships or techline ships in the game, I did mention the Tennessee class, because look at this refit. Lots of AA, modern 5-inch secondaries on this ship. The ship is absolutely ridiculously thick, by the way, if you can't tell. This is, again, a faddle ship. So, the ship looks really cool. I like the design of it. But, unfortunately, that's about where the things I like about this ship end. So, the armor, she is a thick girl. She has a 26mm bow, a 26mm stern, no icebreaker bow, but she does have a stern plate that wraps around almost to a complete icebreaker stern, if you will, of 203mm of armor. I mean, it's below the waterline. You might bounce some shells there if you're, kiting out and someone somehow underestimates how fast this ship is going. Sure, you can bounce a lot there if you manage to force players to hit that, but in practice, it doesn't really help too much. It might bounce a shell or two here and there, but it's not something you can rely on like a reliable icebreaker, bow, or full wraparound stern. Armor plate. Her midsection is 35mm of armor, those giant torpedo bulges. Her upper armor is 26mm as well. Her bow and stern deck is 26, and her mid deck is 26 as well. So if you're looking at this ship, you're probably thinking, this is a fairly squishy ship, and you would be correct. Now, her citadel is below the waterline and behind just an absolute ton of armor. So you're probably not going to get citadeled in this thing, unless you got some weird plunging fire going on from really long ranges through all that deck and armor and internal armor. So the armor makes the ship incredibly squishy, incredibly prone to HE span, of course. Not to mention, look at the superstructure on this thing. It's massive. You got tons of AA guns, secondary mounts, all that HE and AP shells can bite into. You are going to get chunked playing this ship. Now, for her hit points, she has 58,300 hit points and 35% torpedo damage reduction, which is honestly kind of lackluster for again, how large the torpedo bulges are on the ship. You would think it'd be somewhere up in the 40s. It is a tier 7, but I mean, like, again, most of the ship is torpedo protection. But, alright, Wargaming. Alright, Wargaming. In terms of HP, she's a little bit less than the Colorado, the tier 7 tech line American battleship, which has 59,300. Which is really weird considering the ship is massive, but okay, Wargaming there again. Now, her guns, this is probably the best part. No, this is the best part about this ship. So you get 12 356mm guns, that's 14-inch guns, 12 14-inch American guns, with a reload time of 34.2 seconds, a 180-degree turn time of 48 seconds, and that is with Halsey's improved Grease the Gears commander skill on, and a maximum dispersion of 291 meters, and a maximum range of the build that I have, which has the Artillery Plotting Room Mod 1 slot on, of 23.1 kilometers. Now with the spotter plane, you can't get that out to 27, so this ship has a lot of reach for a tier 7 American battleship. So you definitely have range on your side, but a very slow reload time of 34.2 seconds. This is one of my big gripes about the California. She's a tier 7 battleship with 14-inch guns. Okay, 14-inch guns at tier 7, they're getting on the smaller side of things, especially considering you have to fight a lot of tier 9 ships with the current way matchmaking works around tier 7. Compare that to other tier 7 and even tier 6 battleships. Well, let's actually compare it to 2 tier 6 battleships. 2 tier 6 American battleships. The Arizona and the New Mexico. Arizona's 12 14-inch guns at tier 6 have a 35-second flat reload time, which is on the long side, but at tier 6, 12 14-inch guns is a pretty heavy hand to have. New Mexico down at tier 6, also with 12 14-inch guns, gets a 34.2 second reload time. The same reload time as the California does at tier 7. Now, the California does get 1.9 Sigma, so you do have that going for you. But, I mean, still, look at this dispersion. It's pretty terrible, even with the Sigma. You do get a nice salvo here and there, but oh boy, is it mostly shotgun. So, yeah. Long reload time, not that accurate shell dispersion. Again, you do get the occasional good salvo, but good Sigma. So you could potentially, again, roll a nat 20 and get some good RNG for a round, but from my experience of playing the California over the years, it's not a very good laser pointer compared to, again, ships like, and again, these are higher tier ships like Slava and such, which have very good dispersion. So, long reload time, not the best dispersion. Now, another thing to consider too is the California does have American shell arcs. I'm sorry, well, it does have American shell arcs. You do get a lot of plunging fire effect with these shell arcs. The AP does move a little bit faster than the other American battleships you start seeing from this point on out, because she does get the 50 caliber guns. So her AP does come out the tubes at 823 meters a second. Fairly quick for American battleships. Most American battleships, especially again from tier 7 on up, you start to be in like the low 700s. So they do move fairly quickly, which does help with aiming at longer ranges. You don't have to give these ships massive lead times like you do with the mainline American battleships. So you have that going for you. And with those 50 caliber guns, the AP shells do pack a bit of a punch compared to, again, something like the Arizona. Because the Arizona has a 45 caliber gun, California has a 50 caliber gun, which means the barrel's longer, so more velocity, more pin. So you got that going for you too. So the shells are good. The guns themselves, if it wasn't for the reload time, I would say they would be pretty darn good. But I'd say they'd be they're decent with the current reload time of the guns. You do get, of course, secondary guns. I mentioned earlier, you get the 16 American 127s. This is not a secondary battleship. You can't catch anything in this ship, and we'll get to that in a moment, so don't even worry about building the secondaries. AA, she has an A rating of 85. This is, again, a post-Pearl Harbor refit, so there's absolutely just a crap ton of AA bolted everywhere down on this ship. You get 82 20mm Oerlikons on this ship, on top of, I think, 96 40mm Bofors, and then the 16 127s are also dual purpose. So if you run to like a tier 6 CV, you do have a fair bit of AA, but again with the way AA works, a lot of it has to do with how good of a pilot the enemy CV player is, but definitely if a California and another AA ship next to each other, the CV is going to think once or twice about striking you if your AA is intact. A lot of this AA is focused right on the center line of the superstructure, so after a couple of HE salvos, most of that is going to be broken either way. Maneuverability, this is probably the most painful part of the California. With the speed flag on, this ship goes 21.5 knots at tier 7. And unlike the Colorado, you don't have 16-inch guns to help you hang in the fight. You've got 14-inch guns. So, the Colorado, with its slow speed, gets those 16-inch guns as its trade-off. The California doesn't get that. And this is, again, where I think the reload time should have been a bit lower. 21.5 knots at tier 7, which will be up tier to tier 9, you literally see battleships that can go twice as fast as you with, like, the Georgia. Alright? If you dare to turn in this thing, you're going 15 knots. Which obviously you have to do to maneuver into angle. Which means, of course, you don't want to bleed speed, so a lot of cases you're just holding in a straight line, which makes it incredibly easy for the enemy team to just farm you down, but you're stuck in a catch-22. You go in a straight line to try and keep your speed, to try and open up the distance, to maybe go undetected, but now you're just getting railed by the enemy team. You turn to try and throw off their shots, and now you're going 15 knots. This ship is terrible in terms of maneuverability, which then means if you want to not get absolutely evaporated by the enemy team, you have to play it in the back. This is a sniping ship, of course, and you are going to be playing at longer ranges, especially in tier 9 games. So you got to play it in the back, which means that late game, when you need to get in there and do things like cap or push or deter the enemy team from capping, you can't really do it in a timely manner, because you go 21.5 knots on tier 9 maps. So, yeah, the speed is ridiculous, which is, again, why either the reload time should have been lower or the ship should maybe have been a tier 6 ship, with some other tweaks to other stats to reflect that. But nope, it's tier 7, 21.5 knots, and a 14.7 rudder shift time to boot on top of that. Their concealment's actually pretty decent at 11.8 kilometers, which means you can hide fairly well. But again, it's only a matter of time before the enemy team runs you down. 21.5 knots. This is slow by tier 7 standards. Most other tech lines at tier 7 are getting their fast battleships or faster battleships, but not the Americans. If you played Colorado or any of the battleships, you know what to expect here. You have to be an absolute guru of reading the minimap and reading the enemy team to make sure you're already doing what you need to do to make sure your ship can survive. Alright, moving over to the equipment. Nothing really special here. You get the American Battleship Hill, lasts for 30.8 seconds, repairs 349 hit points per second. Damage con, you do get that lovely American Battleship Damage con that runs for 22 seconds and reloads in 76 seconds. You do get a choice between Spotter or Fighter. I'd recommend Spotter. This is a sniping battleship, and with the Spotter, you can get your range out to 27 kilometers, which is very helpful in Tier 9 games. As far as the module build, main battery Damage con, that's what I would build into. Take the main Armaments mod 1, Damage con 1, and then aiming Utterly Plotting Room mod 1, which gives you that extra range to your main battery guns, and then Damage con 2. So, like I've mentioned before, California in today's World of Warships is incredibly painful to play, especially in Tier 9 games like the one you're watching right now. The one you're watching right now is actually a pretty darn good match through and through, but you can definitely see the pains of the California. There's a point at which I have to try and run away from the enemy team because I'm the lone survivor of the, on the western flank on this map. So I'm by myself, and I'm trying to, again, balance it between going in a straight line to maintain my speed, to try and disengage, and also try to maneuver to where the enemy team doesn't have just a turkey shoot trying to form my California. I wind up having to retreat way to the back of the map, and then I have to try and push up and do something for my team late game, like capping and the like, and the ship simply isn't fast enough to really get there in time whereas something like a Scharnhorst, like a Gneisenau, or any other Tier 7 battleship would have. Speaking of aircraft, good God. And you can see I do get attacked by the CV a couple times in this match, and again, AA, it's kind of decent, but it's a Soviet CV. He's dropping me right at the edge of my AA, so it's not really getting into my mid-range AA and getting a lot of damage done to the planes, but I do shoot a few down. But again, it's also after being farmed by the enemy team for quite some time. Oh yeah, by the way, the armored 26mm bow and stern, you can only bounce 14-inch shells. You know what there's not a lot of at Tier 9 matches? 14-inch shells. You're going to be overmatched left, right, and center with these 26mm plates on the bow and the stern. So, yeah, enjoy that in a ship that goes 21 knots. So, unfortunately, the California guys, if you're looking to pick it up, I really would skip on it. A ship you may want to pick up that's a lot better than the California, that does literally the exact same thing the California does, is the Arizona. The Arizona is literally, it plays exactly like the California. It has a little bit less range. The guns have a little bit longer reload time, but it's another 12, 14-inch gun battleship that stays at longer ranges. And it's at Tier 6, which means you don't have to worry about getting up-tiered into a Tier 9 game. Now, yes, you have to be worried about getting up-tiered into a Tier 8 game, but being up-tiered from Tier 6 to Tier 8 is a lot less painful than being up-tiered from Tier 7 to Tier 9. The power gap from 7 to 9 is insane. Now, don't get me wrong, 6 to 8 ain't no cakewalk either, but it's a hell of a lot better than 7 to 9. And it's cheaper, too, because it's a Tier 6 premium ship. And the Arizona is a pretty good commander trainer for your American battleship line if you want to go down that line as well. And the California would be, too, if it was a bit more enjoyable to play, but it's not worth forking over the 30-something dollars that it costs to get this ship. To just want to absolutely rip your hair out sometimes with the way the guns work and getting overmatched by every battleship in the game when you get double up tiered. So I'd give a hard pass to this one, guys. Don't spend your money on this ship. If you get the ship in a container or something for some event, it'll be a nice port queen. If you take it out once, you'll see how miserable it is and probably never want to play it again. It is very unfortunate that such a historic ship got this treatment in game, but that's unfortunately the way the dice rolls sometimes. If you enjoyed the video, guys, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 35,000 subs, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday and a wonderful week, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one.